Well, I'd like to introduce everybody to Kirby Sneen. Had the pleasure of knowing Kirby for probably 12 to 13 years. Kirby is the president of the Manufacturers Alliance. As the president, Kirby has led the growth of the Manufacturers Alliance to over 500 member companies. Now, if a company is a manufacturer within Minnesota, or they have a location within Minnesota, they probably are a member of the Manufacturers Alliance. That's a good thing to know. Kirby has degrees from the Hennepin Technical College, Metropolitan State, and he also holds an MBA from the University of St. Thomas. He is the host of the popular Manufacturers Alliance podcast, which features top Manufacturers Alliance colleagues who help people from or at all stages within their careers to become better leaders and also better problem solvers. Kirby, on his free time or during his free time, he likes to spend time with the Kirby Sneen clan. He has Caden, who's 4 years old, and Nora, who is 11 months old. They might pop in, or we might hear them during the podcast. Kirby also sent me a photo of the kids playing in a little kids' toy pool with a snapping turtle. I hope all the kids have their fingers still. I don't know why, Dad, if you're concerned about safety, would let the kids come so close to even a baby snapping turtle. So one of the things that I'd like to share with you is the Manufacturers Alliance has a training curriculum which provides business and SMEs from within the Alliance membership to actually train others on key topics, key themes that are going on within the manufacturing industry. They take these skill sets and they actually turn it into a training program. And they also offer not just the training classes, but also certifications like Lean, Six Sigma, and Lean Leaders. Kirby, by having these members actually train and provide this information to the group, he has his pulse on really what's happening in not only Minnesota businesses, but also in manufacturing. So he knows that there's two things that manufacturers right now are looking for. That's people with leadership abilities and also people that know how to problem solve. He'll be sharing those concepts with you tonight. The Manufacturers Alliance also provides an opportunity for peer-to-peer benchmarking groups. Member companies can have their people go to these benchmarking monthly meetings. Some of the themes or the peer groups are supply chain, operations management, quality, continuous improvement, HR management, and I believe about 12 or 13 other ones. Companies that hold these events are companies like Medtronic, Starkey Technologies, 3M, Pentair, and then a bunch of other manufacturers. So on a personal note, when I was working for a manufacturer, I went through the Lean Leadership certification. It was a great program. I learned a lot from the program. I also sent people that I hired and were working for me for these certifications also. They went on to become quality managers, production managers, lean leaders. It's been a great program for people within the manufacturing community, and you don't have to be a manufacturer to go to these classes to learn about the skill sets that you need. Also, with the peer-to-peer group meetings, I learned a lot, and I was able to benchmark what other companies were doing, and I was able to bring that back to my company. So I want to say, without the Manufacturers Alliance and without the Eagle Group, I know that I would not have been able to make a career transition to US Bank and to be a process improvement project manager working on robotic process automations for the company. So it's been a really good relationship that I've built not only with Manufacturers Alliance, and other members within the Manufacturers Alliance, but also with Kirby. And then leveraging that, the Eagle Group has really helped me understand what value I can provide to companies, and they helped me in my most recent transition. So on that note, I'd like to turn it over to Kirby. Thank you very much for presenting tonight.
Mike, thank you very much. Great to be able to be introduced in such a kind way and personal way. So thank you. And thank you, Bob and Adam, for your leadership with this particular group. It looks like a great group, and I'm honored to be able to present. And so with that, we'll jump right in. I'll share my screen here. So I do want to talk about two skill sets that all manufacturers are looking for now and for the foreseeable future. But I've also got some bonus content that I want to share with you that seems like it would be applicable as it relates to compensation and benefits data. And so I'll get into these two things and that in just a moment here. But first, I wanted to get into a couple of the problems that I see time and time again. And so I've got a few of them listed here. I would say that in my 15 years of experience, I unfortunately see these three things time and time again. As you can see, the first one there, more firefighting than problem solving. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people are rewarded for putting out fires. It's like you put out a fire, you get the badge of honor. And I would say one of the classic examples here is just expediting. If it's one thing manufacturers are good at that maybe they shouldn't be, it is expediting that order. Another one then is just how much time is spent looking for stuff when it could be just really well organized, but the amount of time that is wasted looking for stuff is unfortunately all too common. I don't know how many times I have seen after someone finds it, whatever they're looking for, anything from a wrench or tooling, a jig, you name it, and then you know, they get the components that they want, and then you see the forklift go by with one box on it. I can't help but smirk just because you spend all that time looking for that one part, and then you have this, you know, big forklift going by with one box on it. And then the last one here, unfortunately, just the fact that there is more ambiguity than there are clear standards and goals. And so it sure would be nice if all three of these would go away. You know, it's likely that they won't, but we're chipping away at having these problems completely eliminated as much as we can. So, you know, the last one here, I think the example is maintenance on equipment. I don't know how many people have experienced this, but there is a big difference between just having downtime that's not planned versus planned downtime on equipment, so that you know, hey, this is the standard, here's how much time we're not going to be able to use this piece of equipment, versus just running it until it's completely burned out and you didn't plan on it being burned out, and now you're not going to be able to run parts. So these three problems, and this is really just the tip of the iceberg, are some of the things that I just see time and time again. And so then what's the response? Well, of course, the response is to be able to get into a skill set to be able to address these problems. And of course, many, many more. These are just a few, again, that came to mind that I wanted to be able to share as examples that might get you thinking about, you know, other problems. And so as it relates to problem solving as a skill set, also be thinking about how problem solving is a process. And every process has steps in it. And in the process that we recommend, there's actually at the highest level 4 steps. And so I'll throw out all 4 of them quickly here. And this isn't anything that we've made up. This stuff is rooted in industrial engineering and the scientific method. Obviously has been around much longer than I have, but what we can share that's different is some modern day applications and then giving you a clear path to be able to demonstrate how much you know about problem solving that maybe you're not giving yourself credit for. So I'll go through these 4 relatively quickly here. So defining a problem. Well, what is a problem? And you would think, well, I know what a problem is, but not many people can articulate it. So a problem is, in a nutshell, not meeting a standard or not having a standard. Think about it. How many times have you had expectations that weren't met? And I use expectations, that term loosely, expectations or a standard. And so then thinking about that a little bit more, when you get into defining a problem and you get into a standard, it's important to be able to really go slow and think about what your problem is. Think about how you're not meeting the standard, or if you don't have that standard, because you're going to want to be able to eventually discipline yourself to not jump to conclusions. That's the thing that we see time and time again. People jump to conclusions. They think, yep, it's a problem. I know how to solve it. And they jump in and they go after it. And more often than not, they're jumping to the wrong conclusion. They're solving a different problem, or they just completely went off on some tangent. So you got to go slow. You got to be disciplined. And you want to do that for the reasons I just mentioned. Plus, once you get the problem identified, then you can attract resources. That's the big kicker with defining a problem, because then you'll know how big of a problem it is, how big of a gap it is between where you're at currently in your performance in your process versus where you want to be. And then you could say, well, we need resources to be able to meet the standard or to be able to set the standard. So then, of course, you're going to ask for funding, a budget, maybe a cross-functional team, time from other people for meetings, those sort of things. So it's really important to go slow in this first step so that you can attract resources. Okay, then step number 2, getting to the root cause, and I'll share some examples of this, but this is another critical step in the process for you to be able to go slow and be really disciplined. There's a technique out there that many of you may be using intuitively, and again, you could just give yourself more credit for it. It's called the 5 why method, and it helps you be able to get to the root cause so you can treat causes, not symptoms. It also then leads you to the next step to be able to say, well, how could we now effectively treat that cause or causes with mistake-proofing techniques, and then ultimately be able to implement one of those techniques, and then be real methodical about saying, okay, well, what worked and what didn't work here. So problem solving is a process, not having that standard or not meeting that standard, and then again, being disciplined about getting to the root cause using the 5 why technique. And again, I'll share an example of that in just a minute. So then just a couple examples on countermeasures I thought of and mistake proofing. You know, for example, I've seen punch press in sheet metal manufacturing and just fabrication, where individuals, they have to push 2 hands down in order for the press to come down, right? So it's a good way to be able to think of, well, what is a potential countermeasure to make sure that nobody loses a finger? Another one I thought of that's real straightforward, anybody could relate to this one, but we've had people in the break room or in break rooms, they'll put their coffee up high and they'll forget about it. And next thing you know, it spills and it ruins something that was maybe laying next to it. Well, if you angle the shelf and there's no longer the opportunity to put your coffee there, it won't spill. You can put it down somewhere lower. So just real simple but classic examples. So what I'd like to do now is go deeper into the 5 why method. And what I did is put together just a really short sample for you guys of a podcast that we did a few weeks ago, again on root cause analysis. and specifically the 5 why method. And so listen in on these 2 examples here. There's a quick little intro and a quick little end, but there's about 1.5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes of examples. So I'll go ahead and I'll play this now.
Welcome to the Manufacturers Alliance podcast, where we help anyone who works in manufacturing become a better leader and problem solver so all manufacturers can remain competitive. I'm your host, Kirby Sneen, and in this episode, we're going to talk about getting to the root cause. Specifically, I'm going to cover 2 quality tools, 5 why and fishbone diagrams. All right, let's get into it. Here's another one that's maybe a little bit more practical. It's about shipping the wrong product. Here's the problem statement. The customer received the wrong item 5 times last month from our distribution center. So let's go through it. So the wrong item was pulled from inventory. Okay, why? Well, the item we pulled from inventory was mislabeled. Okay, how come? Well, our supplier mislabeled the item prior to shipping it to our warehouse. Well, why is that? Well, the individual applying labels to our product at the supplier placed the wrong label on the product. Well, how come again? Well, labels for different orders are pre-printed and it is easy to apply the wrong label. Okay. Now I think we're getting somewhere. So let's kind of talk through these a little bit deeper. I want to go deeper in this example than the milk one, because I think there's some good guidelines here. So when we talked about the wrong item being pulled from inventory and we ask why, we could say, well, we're going to retrain our stock pickers. And you think about that, I think there's almost no benefit. I think this solution has nothing to do with the true cause. So let's go a little bit deeper again. The item we pulled from inventory was mislabeled. Well, we could inspect our inventory. We could add an inspection point. How many times have you heard that? I think there's some benefit, but it's minimal here. And I think it applies to the current stock only. And that's why. So the next one was our supplier mislabeled the item prior to shipping it to our warehouse. Well, here you could have the supplier sort their stock to contain the problem. That's very limited with some very limited long-term benefit. So, there's something there, but not much. So then the individual applying labels to our product to the supplier placed the wrong label on the product. You could conduct training at the supplier. And although this is okay, again, it's limited long-term benefit. So then the last one here, labels for different orders are pre-printed and it is easy to apply the wrong label. This is the one where I think, okay, could we mistake proof the label printing and application process? That one I think is highly effective because we're talking about the process and mistake proofing. We can take action on these things that will have immediate and long-term impact. So this is maybe self-serving here, but we just had that episode on mistake proofing with Meg Hanneman. And so if you want to look into some of those lessons learned and some of those broadly applicable applications, take a look at that. I'm Kirby Sneen, and this is the Manufacturers Alliance podcast. I hope this episode helps you and your team get to the root cause of your next problem so you can stop firefighting and having to address the same problem again and again.
So there you go, just a little bit deeper into the 5 why example, just a couple of key points there. As they looked into shipping the wrong product and going into why 5 times, and it could have been 3, it could have been 6, that part doesn't matter, but they focused on the process and not pointing fingers at people saying, well, Kirby needs training or Bob needs more training. They really took a look at what steps in the process. And they said, all work is a process. Every step either adds value or it doesn't. And if it doesn't add value, let's get rid of it. And if it does add value, let's help ensure that step can go smoothly. So talking about how they can improve the label printing process. So I think those are just a couple of key takeaways there. And if you don't know those things, you should, of course, or if you already know those things intuitively, give yourself more credit. I wanted to also translate these things into how problem solving and that 4-step process, again, based in the scientific method, show up in job descriptions. These are on our job board. I pulled these over the last few days. I found one from a company called Acceptance Group. Mike, this one's going to be familiar to you as a bandsaw operator. This was required skill number 2, a desire to help the company improve. Well, obviously, you've got to be able to identify the fact that you're not meeting a standard in order for you to be able to say, hey, let's improve, or the fact, again, that you don't have a standard, then there's an opportunity to improve. So that one is a key word that stands out to me. Another one here, Apex International, production line lead. They want someone to be able to improve the quality system and troubleshoot equipment. Again, those 2 words stand out to me as prime examples of how you could apply that 4-step problem solving process. And then last but not least here, this one's interesting to me, GN Resound, a production supervisor, the required skills, I think this was number 2 or 3 on the list. The ability to identify opportunities for improvement. So here's another definition for you guys to drive clarity in your thinking. This is the 3rd way that I really think about problem solving and process improvement. So I've mentioned probably 6 or 7 times, if you don't have a standard, that's a problem. If you have a standard and you're not meeting it, that's a problem. But if you have a standard and you continue to improve, that's my definition of an opportunity for improvement, when you can continue to go further. And it's good to be able to know where is it in your process and in all the opportunities that you're looking at, where you're either closing gaps or going above and beyond in your performance, and to be able to look at where you should focus. So again, I thought those 3 jobs were just prime examples of how important this stuff is. Another great example is member company Thompson Reuters. Had the opportunity to work with them intimately for years. We're kind of 1 step removed because they've had so many people graduate out of the training and are now moving into things like the benchmarking peer groups like Mike was talking about. But they also translate in their own words how problem solving and process improvement applied in their environment. So this is just another video that I wanted to share with you guys. It's just a little bit longer than the last one, but here we go.
When I come into work, I want to come in to do the best job I can by eliminating waste, eliminating steps, basically just improving our job. At the same time, it's, you know, improving the process of less waste. It's a positive all the way around.
I used to just come and do my job. You know, I really never looked for better ways or easier or simpler ways to do it. We were trained to do it a certain way, and that's the way we did it. Having gone through the lean event, you're always looking for a better way to do your job and to get the product out.
I think everybody here in manufacturing has put a whole lot into this, from top level to the bottom level to the workers on the floor. People have got to understand it and learn it and like it as the days have grown on. Everything has its own home. And if it's not there, you know it's not there, where you can replace it if it is missing. And it works.
It's not in a toolbox, in a cupboard, in a drawer, way in the back of the cabinet anymore, buried behind papers. It's actually up on the shadow board.
A place for everything and everything in its place. We've eliminated everything on a piece of equipment except what you need to do that job, as far as incoming supplies, tools, our outgoing product. Everything is staged where it needs to be the most efficient to do our job.
The principles of lean are basically common sense, and it used to get frustrating sometimes when you look at things and say there's got to be an easier way to do this. With the evolution of lean here at Thompson Reuters, we now have a venue where we can incorporate events, and this way it'll help us attack those things that just make sense and get them done.
We also have the continuous improvement board there that we have cards that we have every time you have a problem with a current process, we write down what the new idea is to fix it if we have a problem, and the results that you need to be expecting of after you finish with the process. It's not shortcuts, it's just a different way of doing things so everybody gets the benefit of doing everything more easy.
I can see the impact that continuous improvement has on our customers, so it motivates me to look for new processes to keep meeting our customer expectations. I'm part of the plant-wide quality team, so we look for opportunities across MD&A to improve processes. It has made me pay closer attention to costs, so I pay closer attention to my work.
We get the product in, we do it safely, we get the product out, and our quality is better because we have our SOPs and our quality checks that we go by.
This here is our page Flexor. It's part of our standard work. Simulates turning the page of the book. This is another one of our tests in our standard work to see the strength, the amount of pressure it takes to pull the page out of the book. We do this in 3 different spots in our book to see how many pounds it takes to pull the page out of the book. Industry standard is 2 pounds per square inch. This particular book here took 60 pounds to pull this page out of the book, well above the industry standards. With our standard work that we put in place in our book testing, any defect would be caught in our shop, which results in better quality for our customer. And with our lean process, our customer would get their product in a more timely manner.
We always talk about the cost per unit and things like that. If we can find ways to do things again more efficiently, obviously the cost per unit will stay level, maybe even decrease.
Cost of actually printing it is less just because everything is standardized.
A good example is right down here. You can see we have our yellow plaques, and right above those yellow plaques we have all the old marks. And each one of those, different operator put those marks in for a different web size. With standard work, we took all those marks away and made one standard mark for all the operators instead of having individuals.
By doing that, we actually were able to go from 1,500 waste all the way down to under 300 waste every changeover.
Getting the right people to do the right task at the right time speeds up the process. You know, we cut our make-ready time from 8 minutes down to 2 minutes in our short-run area.
If we're more efficient, it's better for our customers. When they walk through and see how we are, I think they enjoy looking at our plant, knowing that we are organized here at the Egan facility.
It makes me want to become a stronger leader and a stronger operator because I see all the improvements and all the hard work that they're putting in to try to get our product out and to try to make us more efficient. So I'm proud of my coworkers.
Outside of the plant, in my personal life, I've definitely applied lean to the point where it might make some people think at first that I'm a little crazy or a little too nitpicky, things like that.
Hey, honey, if you're not careful, I'm gonna 5S this and we're just gonna get rid of half of it. And if we don't have a spot for it, it's gotta go.
As we learned, everybody has to be on board with success. And I'm still trying to get my sister on board with the house.
I was able to bring it home and fill up most of my wall space, actually 16 feet of wall space with shadow boards. And whenever my brother comes over and wants to work on a car and asks for a tool, I just say, duh, look at the pegboard.
Well, at home I cut 3 acres of lawn, which takes me up to 3 hours to do. Well, I've come to the conclusion that anytime I back the machine up or go over lawn that's already been cut, it's unadded value. So I attack the lawn, I cut my lawn different now, and I've shaved almost an hour off the time it takes to cut the lawn. Well, that gives me another hour to sit in the lawn chair and, you know, and
I love that video. I've seen it a million times, obviously. It never gets old. And so I'm glad that I could share it with you guys. Wanted to recap a few things here. One, the term lean, and I use continuous improvement, problem solving synonymously with lean. And so lean does not mean layoffs. It's rare that I run across that. But some people have had that experience where we did the lean thing and then people got let go. So obviously you could see the upside potential here of process improvement with this team being more engaged. The other one that stood out to me in that video is that, the one gentleman said, oh, this is common sense. And I certainly agree with the scientific method, the 4-step problem solving. It is common sense once you get to know it. But what's unfortunately equally as common these days is people jumping to conclusions and skipping step 1 and step 2 of a 4-step process. Not good. So having that discipline is really important. Another thing, Scott applying the techniques to mowing his lawn, that never gets old. Once you become an improvement champion, you might become a zealot and bring it into your personal applications. So that one always stands out to me. And then last but not least, this is the biggest one. Thompson Reuters in their production facility in Eagan, they had been producing law books for centuries, doing the same thing, the same way, decade after decade. And we were able to help the team be able to be more efficient, be more engaged in their work. And when it came down to having to pivot, when those industries either went away or were digitized, they now print Bibles. And so to be able to see the whole organization shift, to be able to use those competencies and apply their skills into a different industry segment was absolutely amazing. It's a complete transformation. I couldn't be more proud of that team. Okay, so I want to get into skill set number 2 here, but before I do that, wanted to tell individuals that are interested in learning more about the Manufacturers Alliance specifically just a few things. Like Mike said, we're known for training education that's specific to manufacturers, and we deliver over 250 educational events a year in such a way that it's peers learning from peers. So there's that tagline that you can see, peer-to-peer education. Literally individuals from within manufacturing taking time out of their busy day jobs to be able to present, instruct, or facilitate. The picture on your left is a picture of a benchmarking tour. We organize approximately 20 of these a month. Of course, when we took this picture, it was the individuals, the operators wearing the mask. Now everybody is. And we have brought a virtual format. We have virtual tours going on right now for individuals and peer groups. Those are functional based. So if you're in operations, HR, supply chain, we've got a group for you. It's a great way to be able to see these best practices in action. That middle circle is an example of one of our monthly educational seminars. These are great opportunities to be able to introduce people to a new way of thinking and new ideas. And so it's an auditorium setting. These are online now via webinar format. They're short and sweet, where we have manufacturing practitioners sharing their personal experiences on any problem solving or leadership topic. And they talk to both what has worked well for them and what hasn't, so that you can learn from their mistakes. And then the last format that Mike also mentioned is the deepest dive, where the Manufacturers Alliance is also now a private licensed school for our workshops and our certifications. So if you want both the hands-on application, even when you're online, to be in breakouts and do simulations online, and then also gain their credentials with becoming a formal lean practitioner, supervised or certified supervisor, or lean leader, like Mike mentioned, or now our new certification, our strategic leader. And so we also have workshops and certifications. The big difference here between the other two legs of the stool, the other two facets of MA, is that you also are coached to be able to apply what you've learned, so you have real world projects where you're showing measurable benefits. So that's just a little bit about MA. So then getting into problem number 2 here, some of the big problems that we're tackling with this is items like personalities clashing, communication not being clear, treating others as you want to be treated versus how they want to be treated. I would also add to this and say that lots of people that work in manufacturing have kind of worked their way up, and they were promoted to lead or supervisor roles because they were great technically, not also because they were great in working with people. So those are some of the big problems that I see time and time again. And I just saw a note on the Q&A side, so I'm going to jump into the Q&A real quick. So it looks like someone had a question about women in manufacturing. What are we doing about having more women in manufacturing? You know, I certainly do pay attention to promoting women in manufacturing. We don't have a formal agenda based on race or gender. We really just focus on the industry and highlight anybody that works in manufacturing that wants to be able to share their experience. Whether you're a man, a woman, white, black, doesn't matter your ethnicity. And so we don't have any particular special interest groups just for women. You'll definitely see a good cross section of women and men that participate in our podcast and at our seminars. That's for sure. Okay, here's another question. So a tech background on the design side, not the production. Even so, please tell us about any best practices that bring a production perspective into the design phase. First, during the initial design phase, and second, as a lessons learned into the design of product upgrades. So you're looking for, and that first one just bounced. So hold on one second.
Sorry, did you want it back, Kirby?
No, it's okay. I think the first one's good. So I was just, looks like this one's coming in from Bob.
Yes.
So Bob, you're looking for best practices that bring
I was just thinking, so my experience, okay, I'm retired now, but looking back in my career, I mean, there are many points in my career which during the production phase, you know, we used to say, I wish we had known that when we were designing the product, you know, to make the production more efficient. You know, there's some design quirks that make production less efficient. How do you integrate those two processes so you have a nice streamlined flow?
Yeah, so I don't know how long this technique goes back, but there is product and process preparation events that happen regularly at member companies where they will literally do mock-ups of equipment, lines or cells to be able to say, how does this line flow in this space? And so how is that from a design standpoint look? How does it feel with these guards? With access to the machine here, with having to pivot or twist in this particular area. Or from even a fuzzy front end side, things like Agile are becoming more and more popular, which is basically the pace at which you're receiving feedback from your customer. So instead of using long drawn out, what I'm familiar with, waterfall processes, they're using shorter sprints that say, here is design one. This is the minimum viable product design. It meets your specifications, give us feedback. So just the pace at which you're interacting with your customer has accelerated. And of course, there's many different ways to do that. So that would be those would be my first two initial responses for you, Bob.
Thank you.
So you can see the leadership skill set outlined here. I would tell you that there's really three facets to leadership that we look at a high level. There's leading yourself, leading others, and then leading the entire organization. We really focus on being able to lead yourself and lead others. And that's primarily where our training, education, and benchmarking kicks in. And I would say out of all of these items listed here, the communication skills seem to have the biggest impact. And so we continue to focus in on being able to develop resources associated with communication skills. And I would even say out of all the communication skill training that's out there, and there is a lot, the one that we have found is very straightforward and broadly applicable, which I think is what makes it so popular. And so I'll tell you those four really quick here, and then I've got just another short video that's going to highlight them. But in terms of communication skills, people are either ask-oriented or tell-oriented, or they're either people-oriented or they're task-oriented. None of them are good or bad. You just kind of have your default of what your natural tendency is. And you're never 100% in one direction. It's kind of a matter of what mix of communication and social skills you have. But there's definitely those 4 that stand out. And I've got another brief video that I want to show you guys. This particular video is the oldest one I could find in the archive.
When the 2 dimensions of assertiveness and responsiveness are combined, they form the 4 quadrants of the social style matrix, and 4 distinct social styles are defined. Someone perceived as task-directed on the responsiveness scale and ask-directed on the assertiveness scale is perceived as an analytical.
Being competitive in our business is always a challenge, and everything's always moving rather quickly, but surprises, poor preparation, gut feelings, or whatever won't get us where we want to go.
Analyticals are deliberate, thorough, and logical. They're good listeners, careful problem solvers, capable of sorting through complex data and attending to the critical details. People who are task-directed and tell-assertive are perceived as drivers.
We've been working on this for 6 months, and I believe we have all the specific and current information needed to move. We have to get off the dime, and somebody has to take charge and make that happen.
Drivers are decisive, straightforward, clear and concise in their interactions with others. They're willing to take risks and make decisions. They like to make things happen, and they don't like to waste time. Amiables are people perceived as ask-assertive and people-directed.
I'm very committed to the success of this organization and all of the people here. We're very successful, and I believe cooperation is the foundation that our success has been built upon.
Amiables are warm, friendly listeners who value personal relationships. They're good team players, often skilled at building consensus. Amiables are loyal to groups and the group's values. They're supportive and often give credit for their successes to the people they work with. The 4th social style, the expressives, are tell-assertive and people-directed.
I look for an environment where creative thinking, high energy, and variety are supported. Give me new ideas, tell me what you're thinking, explore the possibilities, and then get down and make it happen.
These people are enthusiastic, insightful, and open about their feelings. Expressives are often highly motivated, and they love challenge and excitement and the opportunity to shine. They excel at creating and communicating a sense of vision and purpose. Analyticals, drivers, amiables, and expressives. These are the people we work and interact with.
All right, so before I go any deeper into the leadership skills, I saw another question come in, so I'll jump in there. And it looks like it's, Alvin, you want to know more about budget constraints for improvements, suggestions on how to get one. And so ROI is usually the first step for approval, but more into how to get buy-in and interest in supporting projects that have clear justification. Well, my first response is if it has clear justification, then why didn't you get what you asked for? So you should be on the same page. And so you got to know your audience. And so even think about their communication style as we've just defined it. Are they ask-oriented? Are they tell-oriented? Are they people-oriented? Are they task-oriented? Because it might change how you approach them if you use their communication style preference, not yours. The other thing I thought of is that, if you're going to talk to management or senior executives, you likely got to speak their language again, which is you either got to save them time or money. And that's expressed in different ways. There could be cost avoidance. And so you might have to translate your project into specific cost avoidance dollars. And the other thing is that you might have to demonstrate that you're going to use your wits before their wallets. So you might have to be able to say, well, what small things could I try first that requires little to no investment? And I can show that if we do more of this, that would require a budget and more resources, that it's worth it. And that goes into having a really clear then problem statement. Right back to that problem solving process, step one. And you could say, well, the machine was down for 2 hours. This is how much it cost us. If only we could have X in our predictive analytics, this equipment wouldn't be down. We could save a lot of time and a lot of money. But we've already done a few things on our own. And so I wanted to tell you more about A, B, and C. I think if you approach it like that, I think you'll be better off. And so there's just a couple of tips in my first few thoughts for you, Alvin. Here's some more examples I put together for you guys in terms of where these leadership skills are going to show up in jobs that are available now. So at Premier Marine, they manufacture, you guessed it, pontoon boats. A production supervisor, they're looking for someone that has empathy, that strong concern for others, and working to unite a team. There is no better way to unite a team than to be able to clearly be able to say, hey guys, this is the mission we are on, and to be able to say it in such a way that you know all of the communication style preferences of everybody on your team so that that message really resonates with them. Here's another one from Conic Prime staff, hiring agency looking for an operations manager. They're looking for excellent interpersonal and team building skills. And another great manufacturer here in the Twin Cities is looking to hire a production supervisor. Required skills, I think this was on the number 1 or number 2 on the list. They're looking for an effective, or someone with effective communication skills. And so I think you could demonstrate your ability to communicate clearly by being able to apply what we just talked about with those 4 social styles. So here's an opportunity to be able to self-assess. We don't have the time tonight, but you certainly could do this when you have some downtime. If you had really even just 10 or 15 minutes. We put together a static web page for you guys, and I'm going to open up the chat. And I'm going to share this link. So if you wanted to, you could click that link. You'll go to our page and you'll see the option to download the self-assessment. What you do is you just kind of circle your natural tendencies as you go down and say, well, which response might I provide? And I would encourage you to just do it once. Go with your intuitive response, your first response, and you'll add up your scores at the end, and then it'll start to place you in a particular bucket. And again, those buckets, it's not good, it's not bad, you're not, stuck in one of those buckets. It just means that that's your natural tendency. And if you want to really improve communication skills and improve the communication skills of your team, when you do land, you'll have your whole team take this so that you know what their preference is, so that you can be more versatile, so that you can adapt your approach. If someone else is more ask-oriented, you could change as the leader and say, okay, I'll adapt. In fact, that makes me want to share this next slide then, that quick personal story. I was working with an accounting lead on our team, and she was relatively new, and she wanted to know how long a particular project was, and I wasn't really sure. And I thought, well, I don't know, but it might take anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, something like that. And so she says, okay, great. So she puts together the project plan. She starts going to work. She's got a couple people on the team, and 5-6 weeks later, they say, hey, I got it done. But she says, we got to talk, because I've also got a pit in my stomach right now. And so naturally, I was really concerned. I thought, well, I've had a pit in my stomach. That's never a good thing. what's going on? And she said, well, you said this is going to take 2 or 3 weeks. And, it took me 5 or 6 weeks. And she goes, for the gap, I just had this big pit in my stomach because I thought I wasn't meeting expectations. And, I was really nervous that this should be shorter. And she goes, I just don't know how you could get it done in 2 or 3 weeks. And I said, well, I didn't really know that it could be done in 2 or 3 weeks. It was just an estimate. I was just telling you what maybe it could take. And I frankly don't have a baseline or historical knowledge to say with any certainty that it should have taken you 2 or 3 weeks. So we didn't have a standard in place. And I just told her based on my intuition. And so that was a bit of a problem. If I would have slowed down and if I would have said, well, hey, let's take a look at what your style is and what my style is, I would have said, hey, look, I'm a driver. Like I'm a little bit ready, fire, aim sometimes. I didn't know, so I just made something up and it was an estimate. I didn't mean to set expectations. And she's an analytical. She's definitely on the other side. And so now that we've gone through this, we know to go slow. I know if I don't know, I just tell her I don't know. And I reserve any kind of initial judgment. And now we have a good kind of chuckle at this first project that she did for us a few months ago. And we have a great relationship now that we've gone through these things, and work is going really, really well. And at the end of the day, that's what I want for you guys too, is when you land that next job, I want those relationships to be productive so that people go home energized. They have that much better of a relationship with their family because they had that much better of a day. And then they want to be able to come back energized then the next day as well. And so these problem solving skills and these leadership skills, even just at this, what has been told to you as a kind of a common sense level, can make a huge impact for people on a day-to-day basis. And so I would encourage you to be able to apply these things and really master the basics. And so then I want to share a few other job opportunities and the compensation and benefits data behind it with you guys. So I'm switching gears here now. I thought this would be relevant to really just give you a sample of what's out there in the market. Some of you might be interested in becoming a CNC programmer. And you think, well, how much could I make as a programmer? And so I pulled that one. I like to look at median, which is the middle, not the average. And then I also encourage people to say, well, what can I do to go from the median up to the 75th percentile so I can make even more money? The number one way I've seen people able to make more money is to be able to convey to their hiring manager or their boss what it is that they're going to do in the future to solve their problems. Save them time, save them money. You could just copy and paste those 6 problems that I shared with you. I know you could do better, but for starters, you could copy those and say, I'm going to go after these problems. I'm going to develop a cohesive team. I'm a problem solver. I'm going to teach others how to solve these problems so that we don't jump to conclusions. We use this rigorous method so we don't have to solve the same problem over and over again. You convey those things about what you're going to do in the future, you're going to work your way up to the 75th percentile. Versus dwelling on the past. You can even apply this to performance reviews. If you dwell on the past, the manager thinks to themselves, well, I've already paid you for the past. And so this applies both to when you're sitting down in that interview, talking about the future, then also sitting down for that first compensation conversation. All right, here's another one. Project manager. I thought this one would be broadly applicable. Median for different industries, different size companies, different size companies based on employee population and revenue, then how many miles outside of Minneapolis, because all those things matter. So I thought this would give you a good targeted range to say, what might be realistic? What's the standard out there in industry? And do my expectations line up with standard compensation? And so for each one of these jobs that I have shared or will share, we get at least 6 firms that have reported the data. And so that's how we put together this information. We had over 200 companies participate with over 170 different titles, and each contribute their pay data to these titles at least. Well, actually it's 5 or more, and that's how we compile it. And so we can't offer you the whole survey, but I thought you would value a sample. Production planner, another common position that's available on our website. And there's the median salary. You can see for companies with 50 to 99 employees, 65,000. Larger than that. On the high side, looks like 71. Maybe on the low side, 56. Quick blush. Production supervisor. Median salary here. Lots of 60s. Some in the low 70s for median salary. Plant managers, manufacturing managers. I'm sure many of you here are qualified for this type of position. It's a medium salary. You're gonna have low 6 figures, 115,000, 100,000. So I was encouraged to, again, share this just to help you kind of calibrate on your expectations versus compensation. That's market-based. In case you're taking notes, I'll give you just a few more seconds here. And this data was set as of January, and then we refreshed in April. So there was just a little bit of bonus content, give you a snapshot in case you're looking at one of those positions. Hopefully it helps align your expectations. Okay, then for those of you that are interested in, again, learning more about the Manufacturers Alliance and participating when you land that next job, hopefully you'll think of us when you and or somebody on your team would benefit from becoming a better leader and a better problem solver, seeing us as a potential partner to be able to provide the training education. Again, whether it's via our monthly educational webinars, those benchmarking peer groups and those tour visits, or the deep dive into training and certification via our workshops and those 4 certification programs: Lean Practitioner, Lean Leader, Supervision Fundamentals, and our new one, the Strategic Leader. So here's the next step. So for those of you that have a phone nearby, grab your phone. This will be easy if you've got a smartphone. So if you want to subscribe to our podcast, just type in Monica S at mfrall.com. And then in the subject line, type in podcast, and then just hit send. She'll sign you up. Or maybe some of you want to enroll in or learn more about a certification program. You could just type in certification program, and she'll tell you all about how you could have that program be paid for by the state so that you can go through the training at no cost to you. So 2 next steps there. Just get out your phone, email Monica S at mfrall.com, type in either podcast or certification in the subject line, and hit send. So we'll take a look at the chat one more time. And Q&A, and it looks like we're good. Well, Bob, Mike, and Adam, I appreciate you guys letting me share a little bit more about problem solving and leadership development as I see it.
Thanks, Kirby. Since I have the benefit of unmuting my microphone, got a question for you.
Yeah.
So we have a Tuesday night career track session where people from the Eagle Group help support people that are in transition. One of the things that they help me with is helping to translate my military experience into civilian experience, right? And help improve my resume. Alan Hill helped me understand that my experience in manufacturing for process improvement and engineering actually translated into robotic process automation experience. Do you have any other maybe broader suggestions on how to make the translation of what people have on the resume into the skills manufacturers are looking for? I know you talked about like problem solving and leadership specifically, but is there anything that you can help guide the people that help support the veterans looking for work on how to make those additional translations?
Yeah, I mean, I would just double down on examples of leading a team and how you improved communication and how you led people on a mission. I think there's a clear orientation there between leading people on a mission in that regard versus leading people on a mission in manufacturing. I actually think there's a big gap there. There's a lot of people still in manufacturing that don't feel like they're on a mission. They don't feel like they're engaged. And I think that that's a unique skill that I would assume many in the group have. And so to be able to talk about leading people on a mission and being able to express that in probably 3 ways. I'd give you a quick template or 3-part framework that you could remember. We will, so that, because. So you use those are the beginnings of your sentence or your idea. We will, for example, at Manufacturers Alliance with my team, we will train and educate tens of thousands of people that work in manufacturing so that they can become better leaders and problem solvers, because we know at the end of the day that it's the people in manufacturing that make the difference, that are going to make the industry not just survive, but thrive. So you've got to be able to say how your experience is going to translate via a mission, and then you use that 3-part framework to guide you in doing that.
It's great advice, thank you. Especially also for starting the STAR story. So when people are on the interview, to be able to say, I did this, and relate that into the STAR story example of how they achieved the mission. That's awesome, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, the other thing that comes to mind is to be able to clearly articulate a transformation, which is another way of saying, here was our current state and here's our future state. So do you have examples when you've been able to say, okay, we weren't meeting standards, we weren't meeting goals, we did these activities, whatever those activities are, and now we're that much closer. Our on-time delivery is supposed to be at 95%, we're at 90. Then we took this action and now we're at 94%. We're still shy of the goal, but we're improving. You've got to be able to articulate your story in that way. I know STAR stories have, I believe, the 5 points. You can even get that down to 3, and I think you're going to be in good shape. Current state, that's the problem. Middle, the action. Future state, the results. You really just got to remember that every good inviting people into a story is the best way to be able to bring them into a conversation. And of course, every good story has those 3 parts.
Final phrase, Marty, was because.
Yeah. The reason those three things are so appealing to people to listen to is because it represents internal, external, and philosophical problems. So I'm going deeper here than just the 4 parts of a good, scientific method problem solving, but really, really good problem statements, even just that first part, they actually have 3 subparts to them where you have an internal problem. That's how people feel about it. You have an external problem. That's what you can see about the problem. That's the literal gap. And then there's the philosophical problem, which is the thing that's just plain wrong. It just shouldn't be like that. The fact that there's people in manufacturing that aren't engaged in their jobs and they quit because they have a bad boss, it just shouldn't be that way. But then what's the internal problem? It's the fact that they just feel like their boss doesn't care. What's the external problem? Well, they quit. Okay.
So I think, I mean, for all the people on the call here, I don't know if it's clicking for you, but I mean, what I hear Kirby talking about here lines up awfully darn well with veterans and military personnel. The whole thing about like, hey, you've got a mission, here's what we need to accomplish. And how many times when you were in the service, I mean, how many people here actually did their actual MOS the whole time they were in the service, right? Okay. I mean, I think most of us, like, hey, you were assigned to be infantry or motor T or logistics or comm, but you ended up doing something else, right? And what happened? They usually put you in there and said, okay, you're going to now be you're going to be, you're going to head up the mess hall. Well, I don't know anything about that. Figure it out. And we kind of have that can-do attitude, and it sounds like just the ability to go in someplace here in these manufacturing places that Kirby's talking about. You just like, hey, we got a mission. Here's what we need to get to. We'll get there. You'll do the mission accomplishment. But then to his other point, what's the other part of leadership, right? It's accomplish the mission first, but then tied in with that is looking out for the welfare of your people. You're going to do that at the same time. If you can do that and provide a good team environment, it sounds like an awfully good fit to me.
Yeah, the thing that manufacturers get hung up on, and they don't make this mistake twice, but they get caught up in like fuzzy principles, and they turn them into posters, and it just doesn't get people excited, right? But if you can be like Russell Crowe from the movie Gladiator and lead people on a real mission, transformational mission, regardless of all the obstacles, that gets people excited.
That's awesome, Kirby. I think that's catering very much to our audience here. That's great to hear. I'm glad that they're getting a chance to hear this from you.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you guys very much. I appreciate the opportunity. Great to see everybody. Mike, good to see you again.
Thanks, Kirby.
Thank you so much, Kirby. We really appreciate it. This has really been great. We appreciate everything you've provided here. And I know I certainly learned a lot, and I think a lot of other people have. I'm sure we're going to be reaching out and consulting with you quite a bit more because I think this is going to be great for our members.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you. All right. Oh, did we get a last-minute question that came in here? Oh, from Bruce. Okay. Got it. Thank you, Bruce. That's good stuff. All right. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone. So, here we're getting towards, before we get ready to move over and get into our portion where we talk about, where we move into just kind of our socialization and our chance for people to go ahead and network and that kind of thing. Wanted to ask if we have any landings that we can put out there. If anyone could maybe put something into the chat, that would be great. Give some people some time for that. And while we're waiting for that, I will say that we still have just in case for some reason you didn't know, or if you're new, we still have our Tuesday weekly coaching meetings that are going on, our career track meetings, headed up by folks like Alan Hill here, who's on the panel, and Mike Pavick. So this is a chance where we normally are meeting in person at the Richfield VFW, but in this case, we're obviously still doing it virtually through Zoom. But here's a chance for you to reach in and really talk about anything that you want. And Alan, I don't know if you wanted to jump in quick and say anything. I know we've got you as a panelist here. but I'd love to give you the floor here for a moment.
I appreciate that, Adam. Thank you very much. For those that don't know me, my name is Alan Hill. I was in the Army for 3 years, National Guard 3. My mission is to help you find your next job. So we've got a whole swath of great coaches that help make this happen every Tuesday. So if you're looking for help with a resume or help with interview prep or just trying to get a handle on the process, Tuesday night's meeting is where you need to be. There's people that are there ready to give you a one-on-one. And then also we've started a new networking segment each week. So if you come with your top 3 companies that you want to be introduced to, we'll go through our LinkedIn and find people that we're connected to, most likely through Eagle Group, to introduce you to that company. So we stress the value of networking, and we are delivering it to you every week.
Thank you, Alan. And I definitely want to hit on that again. Remember that part about it. It's really about what you need. Another thing is, like, if you're new to the area, maybe you've relocated to the Twin Cities or something because you're maybe your spouse is from here and you left the service. You don't really know anybody, and you have to start getting connected. That's something you can do through this group as well. Start giving you contacts and people that you can meet with. It's a really great meeting that happens every week, and we're just really so grateful for everyone like Alan and Mike and Michelle and so many other people that help out. Peter Seidman, Randy Casper, that help out with the coaching at this meeting. So very, very grateful for that. Next, I'd like to open it up for our needs and leads. If you have any ideas or if you know of any, maybe it's your company or another company that you heard of that is maybe looking for people and looking to make hires, here's an opportunity to share that here. If you could put that in the chat box, that would be great. We can throw that out there. Also, if you happen to have a particular need that maybe is a little unique or maybe really hasn't kind of addressed here, or you're just looking maybe for a point in the right direction, please go ahead and bring that up in the chat box here as well. We'll go ahead and announce that.
So Adam, I can add people as they post in the chat box. I can promote them to panelists so they can actually speak up and address their needs. And
Even better, so we can give you the floor. So. All right. So while we're putting that out there for anyone that's thinking about it or what have you, we'll one question I guess I kind of want to throw out there. Well, here real quick before I do that. So there's a request here for if anyone's got any connections with Be the Match or Wonderman Thompson. Again, Be the Match or Wonderman Thompson. Bruce Lindbergh is looking for some connections there. If anyone happens to have any information, please feel free to relay that. That would be great. One other thing I was going to ask just too is just like, I'm curious if there's anybody, here this evening that maybe really hadn't thought about anything kind of on the manufacturing front, but maybe based on some of the information tonight is gonna take a look at it. Has that? I'm curious if that has appealed to anybody based on what they heard here this evening. Feel free to put that in the chat box, or if you want as well. That would be great. I learned a lot tonight on this, and I think there's just some tremendous opportunities for military members and veterans to try and match up.
So Adam, this is Bob. Say I'm 2 degrees of separation removed from Be the Match. We can ask the person that I know who's no longer there, but they might have a connection. So.
Okay, great.
The other thing I noticed, Alvin Colkind is no longer on the call. I'd be interested, since he is in manufacturing, I would be interested in if there's anybody else on the call who is currently in manufacturing for their feedback on the presentation tonight. And so I'd like to be a little bit more engaging about the topic here. So, but if there's anybody in manufacturing currently, would like you to share your thoughts.
Awesome. And Mike, do you want to jump back on here really quick and share that this role that you said that you've succeeded in getting put out there, and then once you're done, we're going to turn it over to Mike Pavlik. If we can authorize Mike Pavlik after that, Bob, to speak, that would be great.
Yeah, he said he's currently in manufacturing with MTS.
Yep.
I will update him. So just give me a minute here.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, thanks. So we're looking to hire for the onboarding and implementation team a robotics process engineer. New role, they'll be working for me. We'll be looking at developing automations, implementing some robotics, working with other teams within US Bank to learn more about robotics, and then take that and cascade it through our organization. So it's a really good opportunity for somebody that has broad experience, looking for that broad experience, not just someone that only knows a certain language or a certain type of robot. So if you have somebody that is experienced, that wants to be in a development role and be able to help cascade this through the organization, help transform our organization, you'll be looking for the posting soon on the US Bank website. Bob, you asked me to give you the posting number last month. Don't have that yet, but we meet with the recruiter tomorrow, and we will start posting it not only on the US Bank website, but other websites.
That's outstanding, Mike. Congratulations. I know you've been working on that for a long time. The only thing I would say is I'm wondering if people are going to think twice because they'd be working for you. I'm just kidding, of course. I'm just kidding, of course. Working for you would be a pleasure. You've done an amazing job since you've gotten into the bank, and I think about when you started. It seems like it's a few months ago. Just what you've done in a short amount of time is extremely impressive. Extremely impressive, and it's great to have you on the team. And I hope that we can get someone that is working for you and doing the same kind of great stuff.
Thanks a lot, Adam.
All right, Bob, can we turn it over to Mike Pavlik, or does he have to?
I elevated him, so he can go ahead.
Okay, great. And then we'll put on Timmy Voller. It's great to have him on. We'll move over to Tim afterwards. Mike.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, so I'm working over at MTS Systems as a product manager for a line of tire test systems, a virtual reality driving simulator, and some other pieces of equipment. We do custom engineering as well as kind of standard engineering. We call it XISO or Fastlane. And so the biggest thing with manufacturing companies is that there's so many different roles that vets are well qualified for. We have at MTS have a very sizable vet force that we hired, and they're across a variety of different skill sets, whether we're talking about project managers, whether we're talking about the more technical ones as far as designers and engineers, or myself, a product manager. So really, when you're working with manufacturing, you're going to do the root cause analysis and corrective action process that was discussed today. And it's really about kind of a couple of different things: solving problems, developing and walking through a process, and then really kind of determining how do we innovate and adapt to a changing marketplace. And so we do that all the time in the military. We do that when we're taking a look at what's our adversaries doing. We take a look at what we're doing. Budget changes and adjusting our plan according to budget. We all have to deal with that all the time. So there's a ton of key skills and attributes that apply. So if anybody has any questions, just reach out to me. I'll be happy to help connect, as well as just help build your resume or build your talking points.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. That's great. Really appreciate your input there. So next, let's turn it over to Tim Voller. It's great to have you on here, Tim. It's been a while. I would love to hear your input here. How you doing, my friend?
Very good, Adam. I have been called Timmy since, I don't know, it's been at least 3-4 decades probably. No, welcome everybody. No, listening tonight, and that's one of the reasons I joined tonight is it's just real important to connect to veterans. And in our Western Wisconsin, Minnesota plants, obviously, we've got large groups of veterans. Can you see me yet? It may not have come up.
Yes, we can see you, Tim. We can see it.
Oh, that's scary. I did shave today. No, in many of our plant operations, we'll have production operators to production supervisors, different supervisory positions, principally that we're looking for folks that have that background leading a team. We continue to see that throughout our organizations, and just ask that you take a look at that on our 3M.com careers website. If you see those positions, definitely check them out. Connect back to me if you've got questions. And just the resurgence, we're looking at this critically again, knowing that we've made some headway in the past couple of years, but continue to try to expand that. And many of our organizations recognize the significance of veteran contribution. We just saw some data where we saw percentages of folks with veterans in our different operations around the United States. We have several that have over 10% of their workforce has got a veteran connection. I think the highest at one point we had was almost 15%. We just recently made an acquisition in San Antonio, for instance, where I talked to a manager the other day, their work team. He said, Tim, I don't think we have any non-military folks on my team. And he had a group of 20. So we do have folks all over. Definitely Tuesday nights, if someone needs to connect, please, Adam, provide my information along. I'd be glad to chat.
Absolutely. And Tim, before you mute yourself again, could you just give a quick little bit about your background, just as a recruiter and as a veteran as well? I think that'd be great for the people that might not be familiar with who you are.
Sure. I was banished as a medical service corps in the Army on active duty to 6 years with infantry units, so the Marines can't even put up with me. After 6 years on around the world in infantry divisions, I ended up on a track where I recruited healthcare professionals for active duty all over the world from Minnesota. So I ended up back in Minnesota, and I have been recruiting since post-Gulf War. So I've been doing this for a while. Try to connect when I can, spread thin, but definitely interested in helping folks. And a couple things tonight. I was pleased to see all the different things that the Manufacturers Alliance presents. The one word that I always tell folks to use is resilience. If there's any word that you've ever been taught resilience, other than maybe the Air Force is in the other branches, you'll be tested on resilience every day. The other piece is just the problem solving. It was very interesting to hear that. And I was amazed too to listen and apply it to myself, how many times we can get to root cause because we've had to so many times and others are still trying to catch up. Not an arrogant thing, but just, I think after you've done enough in austere environments, you have a better innate ability, I think, or an internal gyro almost, to get to why things are not working, and not the minutia, not the emotion, not the color of the walls, but deep down, what's really causing that. And I think if you can relay that when you're interviewing, how you've solved it. The last thing is quantifying. It's great to qualify and tell folks about what you've done, how you've done it, but when you can put real numbers to an accomplishment in terms of problem solving, return on investment, percentage increase, decrease, money, dollars, just all those kinds of things. When you're critically looking at yourself, if you can put those into quantifiable terms, develop the story around that, when you're asked during interview to expand, you can put it in terms that people will listen.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. It's great to have you with us this evening. Thank you.
So Tim, before you drop, this is Bob Keller. Will you please, if you're inclined, please post your contact info in the chat box so people
Certainly
can
will.
connect with you?
Glad to.
Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Welcome. Have a great night, everybody.
All right. Great. Lots of great contribution here this evening. That's awesome. So, great. Anything else? Needs and leads, anything like that? I think we've already gotten some stuff come through. We got some great information here. Love hearing about how just some great resurgence with some big manufacturing companies going on here. This is awesome. So, Anything else? Last call, we'll move it open into kind of just open networking here. Anything else? Anything else? This was great. I want to thank, really everybody for being. Bob, did you have something?
No, the only other thing is, barring anything else, once you're finished, Adam, I'm going to leave the meeting on so people can connect with each other. I'll elevate everybody to a panelist so they can connect each other like they do in a traditional Zoom meeting, but I'll stop the recording. So.
Okay, great. And Tim did put his contact information in the box, the chat box there, everybody. So please feel free to, please take a look at that. And again, I want to thank everybody for contributing here this evening and everybody for attending. This was really great. I'm really excited about what's happening kind of in the manufacturing world here and the fact we were able to have him talk. Thank you, Mike Reinitz, for contributing and working on this so much. Really appreciate it. And really everybody else. It's really great. It's really great. Be on the lookout then for when we have our announcement coming out here soon for our next recruiting panel coming up here next month. That should be coming out here very, very soon. And remember our career track meetings on Tuesdays from 5 to 7. You can sign up for that through Member Planet like you did for this meeting. And yeah, we'll go ahead and open it up. Oh, wait, we got a quick announcement here from Sheila. Okay, so Cargill is the virtual host of the 2020 Minnesota National Guard Women's Leadership Forum on September 12th, and they were also recognized for the Disabled American Veterans 2020 Employer of the Year. That's outstanding. Congratulations, Cargill. Well deserved.
Panelist, you can speak. So
yeah, so that's great. But awesome. So let's open it up then, Bob.
It's open.
Great.
So I'll continue to roll. I'll stop the recording now, but continue on until 2000 hours.
Sounds great. Thanks, Bob.
Okay. Thank you. This is a great meeting, everybody.
Yes.